welcome to this next episode of I Fight What You Fear with Richard Vega. And today's guest is a great friend of mine, Bianca Gracia. And she is an amazing force. She is a personal friend of mine. She has helped me in different avenues and navigating through a lot of different things. She is a beast. She gives wisdom and knowledge, and she stands up for righteousness. She also stands up for your rights, whether you know it or not. She has worked all over the country. She lives here in Houston, Texas, and we have partnered on a lot of great things. I'm just telling you, I cannot stop bragging on my friend because she really is a true force to be reckoned with. And when she puts her mind to something, she reminds me, and I don't like to use it, but I got a dog, I got a dog with it. And when he zones in on something, that's it. He's going after it. And you remind me of that. The other day, I had him on the collar, and he saw this rabbit far off in and I saw him hunch down, and he was so zoned in, and I was calling him. I already knew what he was going to do. I was calling him, and he was gone. And that was it. I said, that's Bianca, boy. She's zoned in. She's going after it. So, hey, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I know we have a whole lot to probably talk about, and today I want to be able to talk about a few things. Let's talk about election integrity. I think you have a lot of wisdom in that, and I also like to talk about what's next for you, because you have done a lot of great things, and you've always have a spark of fire in a lot of different elements of I guess the political realm, but not really the political realm, just on what's right. And so I'd like to know more about what you got going on in the next year or so. So let's dive in. Tell a little bit people about who you are and what you've done.
Well, thank you, Pastor, first and foremost, for inviting me. It's always an honor to be on anybody that asks me to speak. It's always an honor. I'm very humbled. Those are kind words. And I'm laughing because I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much me. I mean, you pet me down pretty well. Yeah, but when the Lord gives you something to do, you go, okay, I don't know how this is going to work, but you get so focused, and there's a lot of noise, and people try to come at you, and that when that adversary comes, I know I'm over the target, and you focus and you just move, you just go, and then God just does everything, and you just look back and you go, whoa, I couldn't have done that now. So it is. Thank you. It's an honor. I thank you for the introduction. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Bianca Gracia, one of the co-founders in 2016 of Latinos for Trump. I still run Latinos for Trump, the organization, not the campaign. We've opened up Latinos for America First now, post Trump being out of the White House. But we've been moving in that realm through that organization. We have a PAC as well. And so, I started early on. I was kind of one of those persons minding my own business, stay-at-home mom, 10 years, stayed home, raising my children, homeschool, just being a community activist or community organizer, involved with all kinds of different things in the community. And that's how people knew me. And then, here comes the man with yellow hair and the bad tweets, right? Down the escalators. My husband's like, that's the guy for us. And I'm like, you're seriously joking, right? No one's going to take him serious. No one ever takes a businessman serious. You got to be in the political realm, and no, and here, but he just said some things that really resonated with me personally, with the landscape of the nation and what we were going through, and personally things like, just local things, being a small business, like I was like doing entrepreneurial things, right? Do a small business, but I could never get ahead. It was like I was overtaxed and overregulated. Well, that's all government, right? And so these things that once you become an adult and you pay bills, you begin to know how much the government has control of everything.
Right.
And we've been raised to believe that church and state are divided and you do not mess with each other, but it's very intertwined.
Absolutely.
And the more that you get involved, you begin to see the dynamics. And so that's really kind of how the Lord, started to use me, and I began to move in these things. And it was not easy. 2016.
Everything that you've done is not easy.
No, it's not.
Let's talk about that real quick. I know we talk about election integrity, but you said something that really triggered me, and I'm sorry for it.
No, go ahead.
But 2016, you helped get on, or you co-founded Latinos for Trump. That's extremely unpopular during that time.
Yes.
Right? Because not a lot of us came out and said, hey, we're rah for Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It was a silent majority.
Oh, it was, but because our communities, we stay tight-knit. We don't really we're loud within our own community and to our tias and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not loud like that on social media.
Yes.
And you were like, I remember seeing everything you're doing, and I'm like, go girl, like this girl here. And then I'm like, where's the men? I was like, where's the men, right?
It's a lot of women. It was a lot of women. We were just, we had to do things that were unconventional. Flag waves, just, go on a corner and flag wave at Trump, because it was really hard to find out who the Trump supporters were. But we wanted to show that there was support.
Right.
The media followed us around. They mocked us. I mean, we got trying to get doxxed. But the funny thing is that Latinos don't understand how much power we have. Mm-hmm. It's you don't understand how much power. I'm serious. You do not understand how much power we have. There's one thing, and I've tried to repeatedly tell the Republican Party, just have no clue. You do not know, and I will use this very lightly, how to integrate and use this to your advantage. You don't know how to use our voice in our communities, and I say that because we're fighting good and evil, and right now I see there's an evil indoctrination that has taken over one side, but the other side is not completely much better. It's corrupted in its own, but you've got some platforms and things, and so you don't understand that the evil, it's very hard to come after the Hispanics. So you're right. When we were standing up, people were you'd see elderly, you'd see this on the news, the elderly they get water bottles thrown at them. They get poop bags thrown at them. They get beat up on the side of the road if they were at a Trump rally. But they wouldn't come after the Hispanic. And I kind of I was in a little bit of fear. It was a little bit scary out there, because you're like, man, they're going to come after us. I mean, they could do a drive-by shooting for all we know. I mean, these things run through your mind. And we were out there, and I was like, so I would always accredit the Lord. Obviously, I give the Lord the credit. God just keeps us in this little bubble. Oh, no, nobody really attacks us. And that's how we went. We just flowed with the Lord. We were like, we're doing God's work, and we believe in what we're doing. And no one really attacked us. But I kind of stepped back years later, and you look back and you go, they didn't attack us because we were Latino women. How dumb would that look? That, these white people are attacking Hispanic minority women on the side of the road for a Trump flag. That's kind of like that's racist.
Right.
So they have to tread lightly when it comes to us minorities speaking out.
A lot of people, and I watched you went all the way to corporate. I mean, you were all over Texas. You were doing you did bulk stuff.
Oh,
you Twitter, actually. Yes, you did all the shebangs. And, I was for Trump, right? I voted for Trump. I might not have liked a lot of things that he said towards individuals, like tearing down people, but I understand he had to defend himself. I understand that he's going against principalities, like you said, people working for evil, right? And, he gets caught up in emotions like we all do.
We all do it.
We all get caught up in emotions. And, hey, let's be honest. If we get attacked, we probably might not act so Christian. Right. We're going to defend, right? But at the end of the day, what you said is Trump said a lot of things that resonated with me. And you said a lot of things that resonated with my community.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you probably started Latinos for Trump or Latinos for Trump. And so many, I remember, because I remember sitting there watching you and watching all this go out and how vocal you were and all the women. It was like all women. And I was just like, man, where are the men? And I remember just sitting there like, okay, Rich, you got it, right? I got to get more involved because I can preach it all day long.
Yep.
Right?
Come on, Pastor.
And where are the men? when are we going to stand up and not just the men in the church, or we need the men in the church to stand up, but our Latino men. You know, we're strong in our community, we're strong at home, we take care of our families, you know, we make sure we're providers. You know, we're great at that. We're great at making sure our home is provided for. And you know, we're very family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, where's the men that say, you know what, enough is enough, this is our community, and we're going to take it back? We don't believe in a lot of these things that are going on, right?
Yeah, correct.
Our community does it. I mean, regardless, like, a lot of Latinos vote Democrat, right? Because
Tradition. The Democrat was a party of the working men. And, you know, and that's what, you know, we grew up. It's like the Kennedy, the working class, you know, fight for the people, fight for righteousness, you know, prosperity jobs,
very,
you know, very union, not hand down, you know, and so, you know, that's it, but it's shifted away from that. And so, yeah, you know, this whole movement has been an overcoming. It's like you begin to understand God's power because you don't become a victim, you become a victor. You overcome a lot of these obstacles and all of these things that get thrown at you. And, you know, you're right, it wasn't popular to be outspoken, but I did it because I knew it was the right thing to do, and I knew that he resonated. And look, I didn't agree with every little thing he said, but most of it, you know, what I always interpreted I said about Trump was he began the process in our country where we had to start ripping Band-Aids. You know, we kept putting patches on every issue, everything that was wrong on the community or in the nation or in the state. We just put a Band-Aid on it. Oh, you know, drug addiction Band-Aid. Oh, you know, the illegal Band-Aid. Oh, you know, whatever it is, whatever it was a Band-Aid, you know. And he just came out and he was like, you know what? He's just ripping Band-Aids apart. And everybody's like, you know, oh my God, he's hurt my feelings. We needed to hurt feelings.
Right.
We needed to get those emotions mixed and say, we need to have these tough conversations that nobody's been wanting to have. You just keep putting Band-Aids and think that's going to solve the problem. Nobody's getting to the root of the problem. You just keep putting Band-Aids. Oh, gun shootings. Oh, they're in all of the schools. Oh, we'll just take people's guns away. That's not the issue. There's the bigger, why is this even happening? You know, and so that's what I saw with Trump is he was ripping these Band-Aids and getting us to have to talk about things that were very uncomfortable, that nobody wanted to talk about. Oh, it's too controversial. And that's what, you know, I saw in him. But God used this whole movement for me, you know, and he opened up this door.
He opened up a lot of
doors. But the first one was literally giving me the whole state of Texas, becoming a Hispanic engagement director for the Republican Party of Texas. Immediately about a week after Trump was elected, I got a call. And so that's the first door that was opened. And so I literally sat there and I'm like, I was stay-at-home mom. Like, you literally just handed me the whole state of Texas. But I knew God was doing something. I didn't understand it all. So, you know, the Lord literally, I mean, I prayed and the Lord was literally, he given me two directives, you know, before Trump won. And one was, you're to be a light in the dark. And I'm thinking Democrat, Republican, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go into Democrat areas and be a light, right? You know, of course. I mean, you think flesh. And then he's like, you're to rise an army. And I'm like, oh, we got that. Latinos, Trump, we're in an army. So, you know, you think all these things. And then finally I get this job at the Republican Party and I'm praying and I'm studying the congressional districts and I'm trying to figure out why are the blue areas blue? Why are the red areas red, right? You know, you got to, again, to learn how to do anything, you got to go and find out are things the way they are. And so I started studying that. And then that's when the Lord literally in my ear, he said, hold pastors accountable. And I said, who said that? And I literally ran around my house and I'm going, there's no one here. So I had to I was a Catholic. Went to my priest. He's like, okay, I'll be. And I'm like, well, I heard a voice. Like, the Lord is literally giving me this. I heard a voice. He said, hold pastors accountable. I don't know any pastors. And that's when the door opened. That was the biggest door. I was like, oh my goodness. So he used the Republican Party. Listen to me. God used the Republican Party in Texas so he could open the door for me to get into the Hispanic evangelical, to start educating our people, because we are not, what does he say? The lack of knowledge is why you perish, right? So because we're not paying attention to these things. We're minding our own business, raising our family, dealing with our own problems, dealing with our own family problems. We don't get involved in the politics, it's not for me, not for us. And so, so we opened that door for me to go and say, there's things going on in this country right underneath your nose. Pastor, you're sitting here preaching all day long God's word, but you ain't holding nobody accountable on either side. You ain't holding nobody accountable. Where are you? And, the whole church and state, oh, no, we don't get involved. But I saw this movement.
And people are so uneducated on that. They don't, real quick, I just want to hit that real quick. It was a letter written by Thomas Jefferson. He was actually overseas. A church wanted to rise up in the United States and be the official church of the United States. He wrote a letter. It was never in our Declaration of Independence. It was never in our Bill of Rights. All he said was that there will be a separation in church and state, that we have a freedom of religion. And that was it. It was in a letter. And so they have taken a literal letter that was written into a church and said, hey, there's separation of church and state. And so they have twisted that letter into actually believing or passing down to churches or pastors or, congregations that there is a separation of church and state, but that's not how it was designed.
And our country was founded on Judeo-Christian values. I think 30 something or 40 something of the 50 people, 52 or 56 people that signed the Declaration of Independence were all pastors, ministers, preachers. They were all some type of faith leader. And so that's phenomenal. I'm glad you bring that up. And so this is where the education was very important to me. That's when we really started to move in the community. We started to educate. My job was not, and I was a Hispanic engagement director. My job was not to go into the church and tell it, you're Republican. No, my job was to say, look, people, this is what this party stands for. This is what this party stands for. You have free will. The Lord gives you decide what value system you want to advocate for, vote for, you want representing you. And if neither one or one over the other, or one you really like but isn't doing, hold people accountable. My job was to educate and you decide. My job was not to tell you that you were to go vote Republican. And that was my message across to Hispanic evangelicals. And we started moving. I saw the Lord moving, and it was just unbelievable with what he did and how the Hispanic vote turned out. We've been increasing, never done before, right? And so we managed to move the needle, but we had Trump at the forefront, pounding down, and we were like resonating and having those uncomfortable conversations. It comes to 2020, and I want to lead into the election integrity, but we start getting involved. I see Hispanics getting involved. I see them getting more motivated. I see more Hispanics running for office. Me and you, when we stepped into an arena, I was like, God, this is not, I didn't even want to run for office. People kept asking me, the Republican Party, what do you want? You want a book deal? You want an appointment? You want, run for office? And I'm like.
Because here's what people don't understand. Like, she jumped from being the state director, but she also worked for Blex's, Candace Owens. She's worked for General Flynn. She's worked for a lot of great leaders in the conservative movement. She's held all different positions, so she's jumping. So I want you guys to understand, like, what she's actually done. A lot of her work has been great. And when we did run for office, we ran together different seats. I called her and asked her for her wisdom and asked her to come out to my vision casting, and she just unloaded ideas. And she didn't even tell me she was running. She unloaded all these ideas like, I'm not on my team. And then she's like, and then I called her and she's like, oh, Pastor, I'm running. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, there goes that. I mean, there goes mine too. Because she gave me a million wonderful ideas. And so, number one, thank you.
I've learned working on the outside, on the inside, on the outside. You learn how to navigate, how to work through the system. When the adversary's there and they don't want you to be part of something, how to go around it. You learn all these things. And so yeah, the Lord has blessed me with that wisdom, and I just pass it on. I pass it on how to work on it. Yeah, I gave it away freely where most people don't. They call for the consulting. I don't even do that. I've done that. I do it all the time because it's part of my education. Like, I'm trying to educate people to get more involved. I don't always get the credit, but God knows what I do. There's people who try to take my credit. I'm like, oh, well, but God knows. God sees. He tells me. God has told me. He's like, Don't worry about it. I see everything.
He gives us our reward.
He said he gives us our reward.
So let's get back to 2020.
Yeah. So we get back to 20. Let's get back to 2020. So it's the years, so we see this Hispanics getting involved. Where we've got the Rio Grande. I mean, we do an RV tour.
I remember.
Yeah. So we did the RV tour around the state of Texas 3 times. We do this RV tour. We go because it's COVID. So we got to overcome. Right. We got to overcome. You can't have events. You got to 6 feet apart. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody wants to open up their place. So we said, you know what? We're going to take to the streets again. We did it before. So we went in an RV, parked in a corner. We went from town to town, started the flag waves, and drew people out because they had to be driving. You had to either go to work or you were going to get something to eat or you were drive-throughing or something, right? We went to all the small little towns, Ollies, George West, Kingsville, Bishop, Robstown, Corpus Christi. We went to all these little towns. We went out to all the way to Lubbock, Midland. We went everywhere. And we encourage people, you can't have events, so get on in your car and start riding around the town and bring awareness. We had people coming up to us, registering to vote, all kinds of things. So we saw a movement like no other, that it allowed us to even get people become poll watchers, poll workers, working. We would tell them, get in a campaign and statewide so they can put you in a polling location. We had people, and in the Rio Grande Valley, we never before, our leaders down there were able to recruit about 80 poll workers. Okay, so the Democrats didn't see this coming, and they didn't like it at all. They mistreated a lot of our poll workers, very much mistreated our poll workers. They told them that they couldn't do things that they necessarily had to do that was part of their poll worker job or, their description. But they didn't know. So literally my leader down there had to run to go get the piece of paper that says what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Literally ran from polling location to tell the presiding judge, no, this person can be here and this is what can be done. And they were really upset because now we were awake.
Now we're educated.
We were educated, we were awake, and we knew what we could and could not do. Because most people be like, oh, well, there was some people that told us, well, I left. They told me I couldn't, I just had to stand in a corner and view from a corner. That's nonsense. That's not what a poll walker's job. So all this happens, the voting comes. We know, we see a movement, and we're working with leaders across the nation. So we see a movement like no other. We're like, and pastors were asking me, are we going to win? Are we going to win? And I said, we have to overcome the fraud. They didn't understand what that meant. What do you mean? We have to come out in numbers because we have to overcome the fraud. And
here's what I'll tell the pastors. Every Christian does vote, right? Every Christian does vote.
You think?
Every Christian gets out and votes because they vote for righteousness. They vote biblically. They vote for the foundations of what your scripture says. In fact, we go look back in the book of Exodus. They elected men to rule over the Israelites, or the tribes of the Hebrews. But anyways, what I'll tell you is that Christians should vote and vote biblically and be focused on what really matters according to what's inside of your book, right? And pastors should be telling their congregation to stick with biblical foundations of what they're voting, because it's so important that pastors start rising up and getting their out. Now, here's what I'll tell you. We will overcome the fraud. It's very simple. When every Christian, every church gets out there and votes.
That's right.
Because the numbers will be so entirely high that they will not be able to cheat. And even if they did cheat, they could not make up for those numbers.
They can't make up for the numbers. And so we saw this, and this is what really opened up our eyes to a corrupted system, right? There is a hierarchy up here, an elite system on both sides, guys. Listen to me, it's on both sides. It's an elite system, and they pick their winner and their losers. They know who the losers are. They pick their winner, and that's who they go. And there is a uniparty elite system running things on the low. And so this opened up our eyes. So it allowed me to we got 300 affidavits in 2020 from Latinos only, between Florida and here, that witnessed, because we were poll watchers. We were actually involved in the process. So we weren't just going to allow the news or Fulano Mangano to come and tell us that, we had people in the polling locations to witness the things that were happening. So we understood. We were like, okay, first it's COVID. So, okay, you bring a car, rented cars, you bring the car to a polling location, you drop a stack of IDs in it. The person runs in, comes with a machine, and there's only one person in the car. And they're going through the whole little, machine. How many people did they vote for? We didn't see how many IDs but they put a stack of them. That they witnessed. Stack of IDs. The person runs, and we have the poll worker inside. The person comes pours a bucket out of IDs, and the person's checking them all in, runs with a machine out. There's one car with one person in it.
Wow.
How many people did you vote for? We saw those kind of things. So we knew. That's when we were like, okay, you can't tell us fraud doesn't exist. That's fraud.
Right.
We're openly fraud. And no one was doing anything about it. So these election integrity bills were very important to us. And this is where it opened up and it becomes a national movement. You hear Trump saying, my election was stolen, my election was stolen. But we've come to learn that the election is not stolen just one way. It's not stolen on the ground only. It's stolen by machines. It's stolen. There's. I think I just talked to an expert that tells me there's about 12,000 ways to manipulate an election. That's a lot. So I learned a lot of these things. I learned that in the 2022, when you and I ran, I learned from experts that study that had been now because it's so wide open, right? It's wide open as into how the system is rigged, I call it, And so I learned from this person that in the 2022 in Texas alone, when the machines stop, okay, we're having problems with machines. And they stop counting. It happened. Oh, it stops counting. What happens is the reason it stops counting. This is what happened in 2022 and 2020, and it's happened even before that. But we didn't know we were part of the process. We had no idea this was going on. We had no idea. And so, what happens is when these machines stop or the counting stops, it allows the people who write the HTML script, they upload their script with the results that the elitist want.
Oh, wow.
And it spits it out, so they upload it to the back end. So as the numbers are really coming in, they hit a wall, and the numbers bounce off that wall. And so when you've got that system, so the new HTML script is pretty much loaded, and that starts releasing what comes out in the front end of the Secretary of State. So it's all done from the back end. So that's one way. The next way is obviously the ballot harvesting. You got politiqueras that get paid for that. You get, the voting of the dead people, all of these things. There's the paper issues, the paper smudge ballots.
Ours was, for ours, were you on the back page too? I was on the back page when I read it.
I don't remember if I was on the back page, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So real quick for people, the audience that are listening, our election was over, they found 10,000 ballots. This isn't our election. They found
10,000. Or it's miraculously appeared.
After they certified the election. 10,000. Now, that would have been my election. That wouldn't have made a break. Yours was a different story. It would have probably led to a runoff or whatever, right? But that's 10,000. That's what they're telling them. I mean, how do you come up with a number of 10,000 that, miraculously showed up?
Yeah, 10,000 exactly, not 10,239.
Correct.
10,000. So you're right. There's all these shenanigans, we just found a new ballot. This is allowed also. Listen, COVID has been used because they allowed the mail-in ballot system to go out. Now, I heard, there's like literally operations. It's like the post office works with a politiquera works with a campaign, and they really have a system in place. And so they get all these mail-in ballots, and the mail-in ballots come into the P.O. box, and the post office calls a P.O. box person and says, hey, you got, things in. So they go pick up, they got 10, 20 ballots, they fill them in, they send them back out. This is an organized crime here. And here we are. We've been taking people to the Capitol to, go and talk about election integrity, and both parties are like, and because they're all part of the system. So they give us this election integrity bill, and they win champion election integrity. No, you didn't, because you go read the bill, it's all watered down. No one's really held accountable. You can pass all the bills in the world, but we've already got laws in place that have been there, and those are not even being enforced.
Right.
And then you take away the power from the Attorney General to enforce any of that. So it's all so like charades, right? It's like And so we, right now, there's a team in place, and I'll talk a little bit about it because you want to talk about election integrity. Nobody ever wants to talk about, open border. Lord forbid Hispanics talk about open border. That's so sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know, open border. So we've got this open border. We come to find out that NGOs are helping the illegals, as they get their asylum or they get their papers, to illegally be here, right? That's what I call it. Yeah, illegally be here. And so they're getting these papers. So these NGOs are literally registering these illegals to vote all over the country, right? And so we've got this process in place where we're now doing FOIAs to try to figure out and try to match up the illegals that have come into the system with the new registered voters. And so you'd be surprised. I think I was given this overwhelmingly amount of a number, and there's people, you can go to it's the HAVA Act. So Helping America Voting Act is like the Civil Rights Act, right? That the United States Congress put into play or passed to protect our elections, right? Back when Gore and Bush had the big fiasco remember they had to recount Florida to find out who won and all that. Okay, so that fiasco led to the Helping America Voting Act. And so HAVA now has, they have a little arm. It's called HAV, HAVD. That system is required to keep tabs of every new registered voter in the United States. And this guy sent me this screenshot, and he said 80 million new voters have been registered in the whole United States. That's how many as Joe Biden supposedly won with. And I'm like, are you sure it's 80 million? And he said, this is what the system is showing. No. So I'm telling you, there is no way. There's no way. There's not even the Democrats can register that many people in a year, right? Or I don't even know if it's since 2021 or whatever it is. Yeah. I can't remember what, but he just sent me the screenshot and I thought, 80 million? 80. I mean, I know there's a lot of pissed off Americans right now with what's going on in the nation, but 8, that's kind of like too big of a number. So anyway, we're trying to break down this information and go state by state with all these people that are in these, election integrity groups and trying to say, okay, let's figure out, because they're up to something. Right. They know they got to, look, Trump's running, DeSantis is running. They got Robert Kennedy Jr. Listen, the word is out on the streets of Robert Kennedy Jr. That's like the Democrats' worst nightmare, because he's throwing truth bomb after truth bomb. They're trying to censor him, his own party. Yeah. And I love this guy. This guy is standing up for righteousness. He's speaking the truth. And I'm like, God, thank you, Jesus.
Are you sure he's not a conservative?
Listen, he is very conservative, but he's running on the Democrat ticket. He's running on the Democrat. And this is what he said. He says, they asked him, you're talking like a Republican. He says, he just kind of laughs about it, but if you watch him, he's super knowledgeable, very intelligent person. We're intelligent. And so he says, listen, he says, this is my legacy. The Democrat Party, my uncle and my father and my uncles and my family, this is our legacy. I will not let my legacy burn down in flames. I said, wow, a righteous leader. Thank God that, he can come back and bring sanity to their own party. Right? Then this whole agenda, Agenda 2030 is what they call it. You guys can research this. Research Agenda 2030. And it tells you exactly their playbook, what exactly they're after, what they're trying to do.
By central banks?
Yeah, all of it. Central banks, or the depopulation, COVID, it's all in there.
You will own nothing and be happy.
Exactly. And that is what, it's an agenda, and it's real. It's not a conspiracy theory. You can look it up. They're literally, they're playing it out right now. They're playing it out, their agenda. And so anyway, Robert Kennedy is coming, and he's just, he is just throwing bombs everywhere. And so they're really afraid of him, right? They're really afraid of him. But I'm looking at them and going, listen, you got to worry because they're going to try to take you out. Listen, they took it away from Bernie Sanders, so Hillary Clinton could win. So, this is happening on both sides, people. This is not just a one party issue. It is a universal issue. It's a national issue.
I call it the bird issue, right? Because you have the right wing and left wing, and then you have it all part of the same bird.
Yeah.
And so this is a bird.
Birds that flock together.
Yeah.
Birds of the flock together. They're sticking together. That's right, Pastor. They really are. And so I think our communities, they're waking up, but we got so much work to do. There's a lot of us. Listen, Texas, 2 weeks ago was declared the majority is now Hispanic. Okay, so we've got a lot of work to do. Now, here's something I stumbled on, and I really want people to hear this. In this last year, in fundraising efforts, I had, these donors in the state of Texas tell my person, we're not going to write out checks to the Hispanic organizations. And he said, why? They showed up 10% more conservatively. Why would you not? They said, well, they don't vote. That's what I said. And so it really upset me because I said, we've done all this work since 2016 and we're bringing out the Latino vote more and more and more. And you want to now say that you're not going to fund any efforts from Latino groups? What's wrong with you? So I don't know. It took me down this thing in this path and I wrote an op-ed about it. You can find it on my Substack. But I talk about this because now with all the knowledge, right? We know we're fighting a corrupt system. We know that there's election fraud. We know it.
It's facts.
It's facts. It's not like a conspiracy theory. It's not like, oh, they just made it. No, there's all kinds of ways they can do this.
Look, real quick, I had a friend of mine, and I just told you before we started the show, I had a friend of mine, he reached out to me. His mother had been dead 18 years, and she showed up as voting, and he didn't understand why her name was on there, and they counted her vote in this last election. And he was like, how can I fix this? Like, what do I do? My mom's been dead for 18 years. There's no way she voted. But yet she voted.
Well, how to fix it?
I did.
Okay, perfect. That's what we need to do. And anybody who's listening to this podcast, if you have a dead relative, and bless your heart, but if you have, you need to go and you need to look up the voting record and see if they've been voting. And if they are, you need to go to the county clerk's office and demand to take the death certificate with you and say you need to remove them off the voting rolls, and they've been voting.
Yeah, and in your local county.
In your local county. So yeah, absolutely. And so back to what I was saying. Okay, so this is what I stumbled upon. This is very important. Listen to me, Hispanic community. This is very important because this is what I was telling you. That I feel that the Lord he's doing something and he's pivoting and he's probably using me, and not popular. It's very uncomfortable. But I stumbled upon something and I said, how can it be possible that they keep saying that 70% of the vote of Latinos vote goes to Democrats and always 30% goes to the Republicans, or 60-40, maybe you're lucky it's 60-40 in some areas. Why is it the same number over and over and over and over? It's just we never move. So they'll say, oh yeah, 10% showed up to vote more in Texas, blah, 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 but we don't really move the needle. So I went back and I said, call me dumb or something, but on my birth certificate, it says I'm white. My race is white. So okay, well, there you go. I started making the phone calls and I said,
It was never a box for us.
Well, there was never a box, exactly. So I said, there's something wrong with this picture. So I started making some phone calls and I called some friends that were born in Mexico, right? They're United States citizens. They were born in Mexico. Can you go get your birth certificate and tell me what it says on your race? And they said, why? I said, I'm curious. They said, well, Mexican. I go, I know you're Mexican, but I know you were born in Mexico. You're Mexican. I get it. But can you go look at your birth certificate? I said, because you're going to be white. And they're like, no, we're not white. No, get down. They started their, they get all upset, right? So I said, just go get your darn birth certificate. They come back and they're like, that's not acceptable. I'm white. And they're like having this rude awakening, right? So
Caucasian. Mine says Caucasian.
Yours says Caucasian, mine says just white. So I said, no. This is a problem. I really believe that Latinos, Hispanic, Mexican, I don't care, Spanish descent, Brazilians, I don't care what you are, Nicaraguans. I don't care. You've been in this country 3, 4, 5, 8 generations. It doesn't matter. You've been in this country forever. I believe that we've been voting at a higher number than they claim we do, but we're thrown into the white box. This many white voted. How are you the majority minority in the state of Texas? And we know we've been This is the thing. This is the thing about the media, too. So they announced that we're the majority minority in Texas in 2023, summer of 2023. But when you read the article, it says they knew this and released it in the summer of 2022. Okay, you released it a year ago, but you're just announcing that we're the majority minority. Why? Oh, sorry. If you read further in the articles, in all different articles, you find out that it was actually the census, the 2020 census. So you've known that we're the majority minority. 3 years later, you wait to announce it 3 years later. It's not a, woo, let's celebrate. You've known we're a majority minority, but you can't hide it no more. But why? Why is it such a big deal now? Why is it a big deal? Because they're planning to use the Latino vote to cheese. Do you hear me? They're planning to use our communities because they claim we do not show up to vote. They're going to use the ballot harvesting. They're going to use our names. They're going to use the illegals who they're registering to vote. Hear me? The illegals have been registered to vote. The illegal is not going to show up to go vote. They're going to use their name and their information to vote. This is a rigged system, guys. You have to hear me out and hear me out clearly. They're coming after the Hispanic community. Here's another thing. So that was one awakening for me now. I'm going, I want my own voice. I don't want to be classified as white. I don't. So there are some applications, if you look at, we started pulling up all the applications, gun applications, medical applications, anything you fill out. What does it say? Race? White. You get an ethnic box, but we don't have a race box. So I'm like, okay, well, they're using race. They're not really using they're using race.
And this was part of Mexico. This is our land. We're indigenous to this.
What is indigenous? Exactly. So I'm like, guys, what's wrong with this? So I said, okay, no. So we don't have a box. So the Democrats have been pushing for a box, or they push for something, right? And so I knew I was onto something because I released my article, and then I went on Newsmax or OAN and I talked about it. The following week, the left-wing media releases theirs and talks about the Hispanics. They actually use all the heat maps of where the Hispanic Latinos are, right? The heavily populated areas. And they talk about Brazilians. They don't talk about us, Mexicans, Central America. They don't talk about anybody else. They talk about the Brazilians and how Brazilians are categorized as white. Okay, but they don't want to be called white. So there's this, so I see, I'm like, oh, I get a nerve. And here's where we can work together because we want a buck. We want a box. So I literally wrote out a letter to every congressional person that was Hispanic, okay, and said, I do not believe you're okay with this. You don't have a box? We're white? I don't want to be white. I pulled up my ancestry. I don't have any white in me. I'm none. No white. So I'm like, I don't want to be white. I don't want to be classified as white. So some applications, you'll see it says white or non-Hispanic white.
Yeah.
Seriously? Non-Hispanic white. Why can't you just have a Hispanic, Mexican, Spanish box, period? So that you can now really understand who we are, track us, really know how many we are, and really know how many of us are really voting. Because I don't believe that only 30% of us, whatever it is, the numbers that they give us, it's just not, it's not valid. It's not valid. I think they've been using these numbers to manipulate what they want. Some public to hear.
Right.
So that's what I've stumbled on, Pastor. That's a direction that I feel that we need to fight. No, interestingly enough, I'm going to throw you a couple of numbers here. And this is why it's become now more of a passion. This is what I'm going to focus on. Is that the Democrats have elected 27 Hispanics on the Democrat ticket in the state of Texas. There's 27 Hispanics representing the Hispanic community on the Democrat side. Republicans have elected 5. And the 5 that they've elected are pretty much the pretty face they just want to smile away. You're not loud. None of those 5 people are loud. Me and you are loud.
That counts me and you out.
Me and you are out. Me and we're too loud. Lord forbid. We don't follow their instructions, right? So, but most Hispanics don't. That's why they had to select and pick. But I'm going. I went to the Republican Party and I said, listen to me here. You want me to accept that these 27 people in the state of Texas represent our communities for murdering our baby till birth and maybe possibly after birth, because this is what they started about.
So they voted on.
And they're voting on it, and this is what they're voting on. You want us to believe that we're okay with the drag queens coming to churches and public libraries and dancing around our
All blockers. We just had a state bill passed blocking the hormone blockers. And these are the people that are supposed to be representing.
Yeah, and they voted against. They didn't want that to happen. They wanted to free society, right? So these are the things you want me to accept that they represent me.
Right.
That's not acceptable anymore.
No.
So when I wrote this letter to Congress, check this out. In Congress, between Congress and Senate, we have 535 people representing. There's 435 congressional people and 100 senators, right? 535. Do you know how many Hispanics are in the whole Congress? Take a guess. Take a guess. On the whole United States. Out of about 535 people, how many Hispanics do you think there are?
I'm gonna give you 35.
Well, it's a little better than that.
Okay.
It's almost at about 50.
Well, hey.
Okay, but guess where the majority of the Hispanics are from? What state? Nope. California. That's right, brother. California. They're from California. The majority of the Hispanics that are representing on the Democrat side, and they have a ton of congressional people from the state of California, Hispanic, but they're a Democrat. Now, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the laws that the Democrats are pushing over their impasses. They're literally passing them. They're beyond illogical. They're not even biblical at all. Lost their minds. So that is what they're trying to, push down as
to represent us.
Yeah, that's who's supposed to represent us. So that wasn't acceptable to me. So I wrote this letter. I have yet to hear from any of them. Okay? I've sent it. Latinos for America First Step, signed it. I'm like, I'm expecting, let's see if any of them reach out to me. Lord forbid they will, because, well, I don't know. What are you part of the whole elite system, or do you really care? Because I do. That's something that's going to be very passionate to me, is fighting for a box.
Well,
I want to fight for a box.
Made it passionate for me, because one of the things that I used to, since I was in middle school and high school, we take all these state exams and all these other things that we do and applications that were filled out in high school. And it would have all these boxes. And I was like, I didn't understand where to check.
Yeah.
And so I'd always check other. I would just check other. And I would write out there Hispanic or Latino. And had no clue really what was going on. And then when I saw my birth certificate, it's like, and a friend of mine had told me, when I was still in high school, maybe getting ready to graduate high school, and it was like, you're white. I'm like, I'm not white. So look, what's your birth certificate? And so I thought he was just joking. And when I pulled out my birth certificate, it's like, man, he's white. I was like, what is my mom? I was like, my mom, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents. Okay, then my dad, my grandparents, where's the white at? Where's the lineage? Like, it says Caucasian. And so anyway, what I'm going to tell you is, I would love to help you join in on that.
Absolutely. You need the more the merrier.
I'm on with you. I would also love, how do we get a hold of that letter so we can sign our name?
I can definitely send it to you and give you the names of the people I sent it to. I will tell you that I don't anticipate any other Republicans helping us. I mean, because they hate to use. They don't like to do the whole race thing, ethnic thing. They hate that.
They better get on board.
Well, I know, but we're unfortunately, okay, this is where we have to come together as a community. And so I've been sitting down, with some leaders on the opposite end. They're not elected leaders, but they're leaders, right? And so I've been having this conversation. We need to have it. It's uncomfortable, but we're gonna have to have it. Let me tell you why. Because this really got my blood boiling here. I don't know if you guys saw, but there's a Democrat black woman that left the Democrat Party in Georgia, and she announced, and oh my God, they're just parading her around. Woo, she's left the Democrat Party, she's Republican, blah, blah, blah. She's like in the Fulton area or whatever in Georgia, right? So it's just like a big thing. But nobody paid attention. They didn't even bother to look. Do you know why she left the Democrat Party? It wasn't because, maybe they're not doing good for her community. It's because now she came out and said that because of the illegal problem in her community, she could no longer defend the Democrats because of the illegal problem. I'm like, oh, So I said, this is where I told some people, I said, this really gets my blood boiling. Why? Because and again, I work for Blexit, so I have nothing against Blexit.
Your party opens up, open orders, and they get pushed into communities, and now you got a problem?
No, this is my bigger problem. Our Hispanic community and the leaders and the Democrats and everybody has used the immigration carrot over us for decades. They promise they're going to fix the immigration problem. They promise they're going to give solutions. They promise they're going to do immigration reform. They never do. They never do. And so we have been used as pawns by both parties on the immigration issue for decades. So I'm now saying, people, oye, hispanos, you're going to now let, and to the leaders, you're going to now let the Black community, because they're doing it in Chicago. Listen, in Chicago, they're having press conferences with like 100 Black people, and they're pushing back on the illegal immigration.
Wow.
So we're going to let the Black people talk for our community?
Right.
And guess what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen, Pastor? The Blacks are going to get a seat at the table like they always do. Oh, what do you need for your community? More money? More grants? More this? They get everything. They get a seat at the table. They get money. Their organizations grow. They get promoted. They get, oh my goodness. Us Hispanics, para abajo. We don't get ahead. Why? Because they use the immigration. So I told Democrat friends, okay, I said to them, you go ahead and let them do that. You now let the Black people go run with the narrative on the immigration because you're too prideful and you don't want to say that the open borders is wrong, that they're raping women and children. You don't want to do that because, we don't want to offend the illegal community. Oh, it's our people. So now you're going to let the Black people get ahead again and again and again. When are you going to wake up?
We
might
stand up on it, but we're gonna do another show on open borders because number one, you're passionate about it, and I'm passionate about it. I'm against it. You're against it. My heart goes out to these people. We still have to be the church, right? It's not their fault. But however, I am not for open borders. I am for protecting our borders of our country and protecting this nation as a whole. And by just allowing whomever to come across into our country is not protecting our country. But anyways, I don't want to get too far up on.
No, and I will say this, I've literally, this is my proposal, is that there's going to have to be, look, Robert Kennedy Jr. on the Democrat side is against the open border. He went down there at 2 a.m. and filmed himself and saw the buses being loaded of illegals from I think I heard from the Border Patrol, there's 230 countries now coming in.
When I went down, I went down there. No, it's not. No, it's not, because when I went down there, I went down there 2020 and 2021, and then I went down there last year. I went last 3 years, but I wanted to see, and so I wanted to see what the media wasn't putting out there. And I'm going to tell you, the first wave that came through was Latinos. The second wave that came through was Haitians. Mm-hmm. The last wave that came through was mixed with Haitians. There was Middle Eastern, and there was a lot of Chinese. Mm-hmm. And my mind was blown. I was like, what in the world? And so it was very eye-opening for me. But I'm going to bring you back to
We'll talk about that. Yeah, that's another subject. But here's my proposal, because I like to do call to actions, Pastor. And here's my thing is that we need to set aside that this is an issue that we as a Hispanic community, we're going to have to take head on. We have to represent it. We cannot let the white people, we cannot let the Asian people, we cannot let the Black people run around with the immigration issue. We are going to have to come. And so I told people, I said, Democrats, you're going to have to come out and stand against this open border thing. You're going to have to come out heavy. But we have to now say we want a comprehensive illegal immigration reform bill done. No more using our communities. So if not, we're going to start running independent ex-constitutional conservatives, and you're not going to get either of our vote. Neither you nor you. We're going to do something about it. So you're either with us or you're against us. And that's when we have to unite. We're going to have to set a lot of other things aside, but we have to take on this issue at the forefront and move forward. So number one, I want a box. Number two, we're going to have to take away this rhetoric from the Black people who are going to use this illegal thing against, to rise up the narrow thing. And I'm like, and we're over here quiet about them. We're going to have to do something about it, Pastor. So those are my call to actions, is that, that's what I'm going to be working on. I'm in communication with Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna. She's a firebrand out there in Congress right now. She censored Adam Schiff, And so I'm in open communication with her. I want to take a delegation of Hispanics to go and sit down with her and meet with her. So we're going to do that. We're going to plan that out. She's in the middle of having a baby right now. So I told her I would wait till after all that. So I want to definitely get Hispanic leaders from across the country. And she loves it. She's like, absolutely beyond that. Let's do it. So she's going to come on my radio show, soon. And so, yeah, so we're moving. And I like to see that other Latinos are rising up and doing it. They're just, taking the bull by the horns, and they're doing what they're doing, and they're, stay focused. And, and also for anybody, and I don't think you're on these calls, but you need to be on these calls. We're having these morning calls every Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m. where we're doing a call with the leaders, Hispanic leaders, with Dr. Dana Myers, who is the vice chair of the Republican Party of Texas. She's been so open. She's been listening to our complaints. We're coming up with solutions. We're trying to come up with ways of how we can work together and not far apart. And so we're trying to be solution based with everything that we do. We're trying to come up with solutions. Not everything is going to be perfect. Not everything is cookie cutter. Again, in my whole process in this last 7 years, you have to figure out a way to get around those blockades that are put in front of you, for good reason. But anyway, I that's what I have to say.
Awesome.
I don't know if you have...
Well, tell people how to get all the, like, how can they follow you? What they got?
So you can follow me on any social media platform, Bianca for Texas, and I am on radio. I think I've completed 3.5 years now at 1440 Keys AM and 98.7 FM. And so I'm on every Monday morning at 8 a.m. So you can follow me there. You can follow us, look up our website, Latinos, official LatinosForTrump.com or LatinosForAmericaFirst.com as well. So you can get involved. You can reach out to us. And Pastor, I know you were part of this, but I'm going back. I'm going to Las Vegas. Back on the tour with Reawaken, General Flynn, and I think Roseanne Barr is going to be part of it, and Jimmy Levy, and they're bringing in some new people, and so I'm excited to get back on tour again, and start, coalescing and meeting other people and networking. It's very important to network and grow these groups and introduce. I do a lot of introducing people. I'm like a little access point. I find people, and I'm like, I'm not a subject. And I don't as such subject expertise in that, but I know somebody who is. So I connect a lot of people and watch the movement grow. So it's very exciting, and I'm just calling all the Hispanics that, look, I've given you very little in this time that we've had, that, the things that we have to overcome. They're coming after our community. They're trying to use us. They're trying to use our vote. We have to be more active and engaged than ever before, especially where the majority minority. And we must fight to get a box and get equal representation for across the nation, for all of our communities. We don't want to be used. I don't want to be categorized as white. Listen, I love white people, but I'm not white.
No, this is nothing against our brothers.
No, it's nothing against anybody, but the qualities. Yeah, it's quality.
They have their own box. Black folks have their own box. They just have their own box. I just want what everybody else has.
Yeah.
Don't come to me talking about equality and we don't see it.
Yeah, we don't.
I'm just saying. This fight was fought back in the civil rights, and Martin Luther King, he fought for the blacks, he fought for Latinos, he fought for the Asians. So I'm just asking for a box.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So anyway, Pastor, thank you so much for inviting me, and God bless y'all.